Hey guys! Last week on my Did Jesus Exist about Tacitus, I kind of half-assed some research and I didn't provide you with all the information that is really out there about Tacitus. Now, the part that I half-assed was basically saying that Tacitus is not a later scribal interpolation, but Richard Carrier does have a solid case against it being authentic. Now, if you're wanting to argue Tacitus, assuming that it's an authentic passage and whatnot, that previous video is good. It is solid. I would suggest highly pulling from that information in order to argue if you want to get past the whole authenticity debate. But if you want to argue about the authenticity of it, I would suggest watching this video, and it's coming up here in a second.
Engineer, a conscious pioneer, a logic general, a reason brigadier. More bullshit from the pulpit. Meet me in the comment section and you get schooled, bitch. The godless engineer.
Now, the original manuscript to Tacitus actually references Christians, not Christiani. Now, you may have it levied against you that Christus and Christus are the same thing, but they're really not. They're vastly different. While Christus is the title of Christ or the Messiah in the Christian religion, Christus is a fairly common slave and freeman name during the time. While Christus means anointed, Christus means good, handy, or useful. If you wanted to go even further, Christus doesn't necessarily have to point towards a person, just because a lot of things can be anointed. Now, in antiquity, both of these names were confused pretty often with each other. And that's why Christians now are saying that Christus and Christus are the same thing, but they're not. Just assuredly, they're not. You can even Google all of this and find it. But basically, as scribal interpolations go, at one point, Tacitus's manuscript said Christians. Then, later on, it magically became Christianos. Basically, this line of logic follows like this. It would be very weird for Tacitus to explain the origin of the Christianos using a guy named Christus. That's how we can know that it's a scribal interpolation, or possibly a scribal interpolation, because that really doesn't make sense, at least not in the line of logic as you read Tacitus. Now, as you will see in the next episode of Did Jesus Exist on Suetonius, he references a Jewish agitator by the name of Christus, and it's a supposed reference to Jesus. But, you see, here's the thing. You can't exactly corroborate what Tacitus would have referred to this Christus or this Jewish agitator as, because those particular portions of Tacitus are conveniently lost. And yes, I am insinuating shit by saying conveniently. Goddamn Christians always fucking up history for us. Now, there are some important facts that back up this calling into question the authenticity of Tacitus. First, there weren't that many Christians in Rome at the time for this particular transgression to occur. There were plenty of Jews, though. Now, given that there weren't a lot of Christians in Rome at the time, there's no real reason for them to be as hated as Tacitus espouses them to be, but yet the Christians are implicated in using urban violence, so there is a plausible case for them to be as hated as Tacitus espouses this group to be. Tacitus uses past tense in order to refer to this group of Jewish agitators, meaning that, at the time of him writing this, they aren't really around. All other sources that indicate this Neronian persecution of the Christians come much later, and most of them are only from Christian sources, when the forged letters of Paul and Seneca were floating around. Now, this happens to be an argument from silence, but it's a very strong argument from silence because there is good reason for this to be recorded in history, but we simply don't find it there. So it's not fallacious to call it into question as to why it wasn't recorded. Now, in the 3rd century, Lactonius actually reports a fire that's similar to the account in Tacitus, but it took place in Nicomedia. However the fuck you say that shit. Now, this would go as far to prove that Tacitus didn't just pull this fire out of his ass, but more importantly, Lactonius didn't pull any kind of parallels from Tacitus's incident into his incident here, which the Christians were actually blamed for. All in all, when it comes right down to it, it makes it very unlikely that the Christians wouldn't have used this particular story in their own martyr stories as a way to, support this persecution complex that we've always known them to have. Tacitus describes a large seditious group that is just not well known during his own time, and this profile doesn't really fit the Christians. Because the Christians did exist in his time, but yet he speaks of this group as if they no longer exist. To assume that he actually meant Christians in this passage would take a lot of improbable assumptions, and you would have to have a lot more evidence to support that they were actually Christians in order to support a belief that he actually meant Christians. Thank you for joining me today for this Did Jesus Exist? If you like this series, go down below, consider becoming a patron. If you would like to suggest sources that I can debunk or address in general, please go down below in the comments section, leave me a link, and let me know what sources you want me to debunk next. The next video in the series is about Suetonius, so please stay tuned for that, where I go into the deeper reasons why Suetonius isn't a good source to support a historical Jesus. Also, stay tuned throughout the week for more interviews, minutes, and atheism, as well as other good videos. Don't forget to check out my game streams. We have a really good time on them. We discuss, we talk with each other, because the game streams are not about the game, but about conversing with your fellow atheists, agnostics, and secular humanists. Thank you for taking your time out today. Don't forget to go down below, hit the like button. Also, share this guy out if you have somebody that's coming at you with Tacitus as supporting a historical Jesus, but you don't. And as always, think skeptically and stay godless.